Thanks, Adrian, and thanks for the opportunity to present. So I'll be talking about what we're doing at Newmont Goldcorp on the low carbon energy and technologies. So first off, Newmont Goldcorp is one of the larger mining companies in the world. So we operate a whole bunch of different assets around the world in North America, South America, Australia and Africa. We have about 19,000 employees and 18,000 contractors, so a fairly large company. And we're one of the few mining companies on the S&P 500 index. So as you can see, we operate around the world. My background, or my playground, I guess, is North America. So we have a Cripple Creek and Victor mine in Colorado. Then in Canada, we got Eleanor in Quebec, Musselwhite, Porcupine, and I'm not sure when the deal closes, but Red Lake is no longer part of the portfolio soon. And then Penasquito in Mexico. In addition, we got some projects, notably the coffee project in the Yukon and Galore Creek in BC. Other than that, we operate in South America, Africa, and Australia. So a global presence. What I wanted to talk about too is our approach to energy and climate. So the way we see things is that we need to continue to improve our efficiencies and to reduce costs and greenhouse emissions, gas emissions. And similar to what Nick was saying, we also need to start recognizing what risks climate change brings with it. So in order to do that, we have 5 pillars in our strategy. So the first one is supply, the second one is basically efficiencies, then looking at the carbon footprints and adaptation to changing climate, and then finally collaboration. And so when you break it out a little bit more, what we really want to achieve is to have a sustainable, economic and secure supply for our mine sites that we can rely on. Because similar to what Dennis was saying, we need to keep our mines going and our mills plugging away at it, so that's how we make money, right? And in order to do that, we need to balance where we get our energy from, sort of what means we have to supply the energy to our mine, and also what kind of carbon footprint we have along with that. And then what Newmont already did, I come from the Goldcorp side, and Goldcorp didn't do is to really start taking a look at what the climate change brings to our site. So that's exciting, and I think it's the right way to look at it. So I broke out a couple of our things from our strategy onto the slide here. Certainly when it comes to supply, you just really need to understand the jurisdiction that you're operating in, where the risks are, where the opportunities are, and what the infrastructure can do. Certainly in Ontario, with the pricing structures, it takes a lot of effort, as some of you may know, maybe more so than anywhere else in the world. Yeah, we also need to know what energy we're using, of course, also for reporting systems, and then through supply chain, we can try to get more cost efficient. So I don't want to go through all the different options or things there. The other one, adapting to a changing climate, we need to know what that means on site and also report out on it as per the financial disclosure guidelines. So if I go to the next one, in terms of our supply, it really depends on where you operate. For example, in Quebec and Ontario, you get very clean energy. The carbon footprints are a fraction of what you see in other jurisdictions. So perhaps in Ontario and Quebec, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go and install renewable energy when you're already grid connected. Certainly Quebec, the rates are pretty low. In Ontario, when you're on the ICI program, you would have to manage that very carefully, but you can achieve very cost competitive rates as well. And I think that kind of follows on the discussion we had this morning on the panel, that if you are already on a very low carbon grid, it becomes a lot more realistic to become carbon neutral in terms of your mining. so you can focus on other things. Like fuel switching. What we also see in Canada is, possibly the clean fuel standard, which will mandate or strongly encourage greater use of biodiesels. There are two main issues that I think still need to be resolved. One of them is a gelling issue under colder temperatures, so we're not quite sure how we're going to do that at higher blend ratios. And for our underground environments, we need to make sure that the emissions are not more toxic than conventional diesel. And I'm not sure if that question has been fully resolved just yet. And then in terms of our mine air heating fuels, we are also looking at different ways to heat our mine. So, for example, again, at Borden, I'm going to reference that a lot because that's where my background was for the last couple of years. But we were able to move away from propane and move to natural gas with a lower carbon footprint, which also happens to be more cost effective. And we're also looking at liquefied natural gas for some other projects where we're not connected to a natural gas pipeline. In terms of our renewables within the company, we do have some solar that is already deployed. A smaller pilot project in Africa was commissioned last year. This year we signed an agreement with the utility there to increase the solar power to 8 megawatts. And then we're looking at solar in Australia at Tanami and KCMG. For where I'm playing it in the region, we're looking at solar at the Cripple Creek and Victor mine in Colorado. It's kind of interesting actually because it's a large heap leach facility, and we need to rinse that a couple of times with cyanide solution and also with water to close it out. So after mining stops, you still have to operate the leach facilities for quite a while, and that provides more runway for solar to play a role. So we're looking at that, and also our Penasquito mine in Zacatecas in Mexico has a very good potential. So we're just wrapping up a study early next year, and then we'll start moving on towards that. I think more importantly, though, fundamentally we're technology agnostic, and we let the numbers kind of work their way through. For places that don't have carbon taxation, in our studies we use $50 per ton of CO2 equivalent for any new project over 25 kilotons CO2 per year. So that drives cleaner technologies as well as an internal mechanism. This topic is near and dear to my heart. The other thing that we're doing is fuel switching, so moving away from diesel equipment to electric equipment. In the underground segment, it's starting to mature quite a bit more. So we now have electric equipment at Eleanor, Musselwhite, and at Borden, and I can just see that we'll be increasing that at other places. There are many benefits to going electric. At Borden in particular, it was also part of the social license to mine. It was important for local stakeholders, and going electric was part of that strategy. I'll talk about that a little bit more on Wednesday as well. On the other, we reduced the greenhouse gas emissions together with some other things that we did, like mine air fuel, by about 70% compared to a diesel mine or conventional diesel mine. We see a reduction in operating costs. The capital is higher, but you need to kind of work your way through the entire business case and have a holistic view in order to extract all the value. The other thing that was kind of critical, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the social license to mine, is that if you don't have diesel, you also don't have the risk of diesel spills, engine oil spills, the supply chain, any accidents on the highway. You just eliminate all of that. However, you kind of need a sophisticated ventilation on-demand system to fully extract the value, which can be tough for existing mines to convert. So, like I said, on Wednesday I'll elaborate on Borden. It's a bit of a treasure chest of good news stories. So, what I alluded to before is that we also need to understand better what the risks are at our site. So we partnered up with the NCAR, the National Research, where was the acronym? The National Center for Atmospheric Research in Colorado. So they have all sorts of climate models that we can pair up with local weather information to provide better forecasting. And they're working on providing the climate narratives for the former Goldcorp sites. It was already completed for the former Newmont sites, which is looking to refine that a bit. And then work through, so that work's going on right now. And then early next year, we're going to be working through the risk workshop. So what type of risk can you think of? Like it's droughts, it's flooding, it's, for example, when you look at water retaining facilities, like, all sorts of stormwater ponds, are they still adequate for the design criteria that you designed it for based on historic data compared to what you can expect with some change? So that's going to be exciting, and will provide us a better view of what a real risk profile going forward is. Last but not least, I think I made up a little bit of time there, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We tried to collaborate, so through the CMIC, ICMM, various industry associations like OMA and the Quebec Mining Association and MAC, and of course with local stakeholders. And aside from that, collaborate with industry peers, like we've done quite a bit on Borden already. And so we're very happy to be here at the conference, and thanks for the invitation.